Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I hope you all are doing well. I am so excited to be moderating this panel. Actually, when the NBC Universal folks emailed me, I said, have you been checking my Peacock watch history? Because I watch this show weekly. I know people binge watch things. I watch it when it comes out. So I am so excited to introduce you all to this panel of wonderful women, starting with Kaliko Kauahi. Kaliko Kauahi stars as Val. She is a no-nonsense nurse administrator on the comedy St. Denis Medical. She is known for her 6th-season role as Sandra on Superstore. And Kaliko has also appeared in Ghost, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Parks and Recreation, and Modern Family, among others. All some of my favorite comedies, so please give a big round of applause for Kaliko. Next, I'm excited to introduce you to Vicky Luu, who is a comedy writer and executive producer on St. Denis Medical. She is a Bay Area native and of Vietnamese and Chinese descent. She earned her BA in film and television production from USC. And she's written for Superstore, American Auto, and Loot, bringing sharp comedic insight to every project. Outside of work, she enjoys binge-watching shows with her wife and making her kid laugh. Please give a warm welcome to Vicky. Last but not least, we have Heather Jack. She is a comedy director and writer known for her work on Superstore, St. Denis Medical, Ghost, and I Love That For You. Selected for NBC's inaugural Female Forward initiative, Heather brings a fresh and confident voice to the comedy television. Her directing credits include Search Party, Dickinson, Atypical, and Miracle Workers, showcasing her versatility across platforms. Please give a warm welcome to Heather. So welcome you all. I know I'm a big fan. I'm wondering if there's any big fans of St. Denis Medical out here. Yeah? Yeah. Well, if you haven't watched the show, St. Denis Medical is a mockumentary-style comedy about an underfunded, understaffed Oregon hospital where doctors and nurses try their best to treat the patients while maintaining their own sanity. That sounds so realistic. I want to start off with a question for each of our panelists. What would you say, and maybe I'll start with Kaliko, what would you say separates this series from the other comedies out there right now?
The writing that Vicky Luu is a part of. I think we just have all the elements that come together. It has a lot of heart. There are definitely moments of drama and, and comedy, obviously, but
yeah. You're making direct eye contact.
I just wanted to thank you personally for all that you do. No, I think it starts with the writing, so that's why I'm looking at Vicky.
The writing. No, I mean, I think, I think every element is certainly involved, and for us, we just wanted to make it where like, you can have good writing, and then the casting is like such a big part of it, not to throw it back at you, but it is like, we're just so lucky, and then we bring in directors who really understand the tone, especially like a lot of TV directors come where they're just there for almost like with like a guest director, so they haven't really been in the process and had like the hours of talks that we've had about sculpting what the tone of the show is, and then when you have a director that can come in and pick that up immediately, it's amazing, and it's such a huge relief, and it is someone that we keep our eye on, that we continue to bring back. So it is, it really is like all those elements together that, really make such a big difference.
So I'm going to echo everything that's been said, but I think for me, the show, and I tell it to people too who haven't seen it yet, and like, it's really the tone of the comedy. It's both like these absurd situations, but it's also grounded in, the experiences of the people and at the hospital. So it's like you can get really zany and silly, but kind of remain grounded in like the reality of the hospital or these people. And I think the more you can ground the comedy, that makes it work, and it kind of makes it stand out for me.
Yeah, it's such an interesting juxtaposition, and I think that's what really stands out to me. Vicky, I have a question for you. So, we've seen so many medical shows over the years, right? From like the steamy ones to the more serious ones. I'm wondering, because this is a comedy, what shows inspired you? And then how do you decide which, we see so many tropes from TV that sometimes we go to the doctor and we're like, I saw it on TV. Like, what tropes did you decide to embrace, and which tropes did you decide to discard when working on St. Denis?
Great question. I mean, I grew up watching sort of ER the way other people did, and obviously with medical shows, there's more dramas than there are comedies. There's definitely Scrub is like the big one that we were compared to, but yeah, it is like an interesting world where, and we do have medical consultants, so there are tropes that exist, but for us, it's not necessarily about bringing the drama out of it, but the comedy in those tropes, where we tried to focus on, it is a workplace comedy. So there's like these like general medical procedures that you've seen on shows, but we were trying to focus on like, what are the attitudes of these nurses and doctors when these traumas are brought in there, and like, how are they reacting to those things? Not necessarily getting the perfect medical accuracy down, although we want to, it's a mockumentary, so we want it to be grounded and we want to have those real life experiences, but we wanted it to come from when a difficult patient comes in, we're moving away from that patient pretty quickly and going to our nurses and doctors and finding out just what their takes on it are, whether it's like, and not even based on anything that's necessarily a medical like diagnosis, but just generally, how are you feeling today when you're extremely tired and you come in and you have a difficult patient to deal with? So we're trying to focus more on just our character basis of stuff like that. So yeah, but when we're pitching in the room, nobody in the room has any sort of medical degree. So we're all pitching of like, I saw this on Grey's Anatomy once, and that's our, the history of our, like, we'll definitely check this with a real doctor, but I'm just saying I saw it on Grey's Anatomy, so maybe we could do it too. So we have those instances as well that we're trying to pull from shows that we've seen that are familiar territory to audiences. So it's a little bit of both,
And I'm sure you're also pulling from personal experience, right? Because we've all gone to the doctor and had the experience where we're just like, you gotta be kidding me, right? Like, I think that there's that as well. Kaliko, so you've previously worked with the co-creators Justin Spitzer and Eric Legend before. You had a notable run on Superstore as Sandra, and I'm wondering how your time on Superstore, helped your approach to your character on St. Denis Medical.
Well, I'm so fortunate to start a new show, but with people that I have known for years, including these two. So for me, there was just a comfort level that existed when I started, which doesn't typically happen. It's always like a new experience, new show, new people. So I felt comfortable to try this new character, and they know me personally, and I felt like, if they can see me as a character that is so different from the one that I played previously, then I have the freedom to try things, and also I like the collaborative way that we work. I'm happy to try something and then take a note and try something else. So, and I love being part of an ensemble. Like, I don't think I would enjoy being on a show that was just centered around my character. That's not interesting to me. Just another ensemble with a great group of people, including people on the crew that I've known for years. Such a dream come true to have this job, with friends every day.
I love that. It's like the same family, new setting, new cast. We can't talk about healthcare without talking about Filipino nurses. I think we've all seen Filipino nurses. So in the Salamat You Too episode, it's one of people's favorite episodes from St. Denis Medical. Your character, Val, hilariously pretends to be Filipino, which is so funny and adds just another layer to her offbeat arc. So Kaliko, I'm going to start with you. How do you approach that scene from a comedic but also culturally sensitive perspective, given that you're not Filipino?
Well, I know that the writers approach it, with sensitivity in terms of like not being Filipino, but, and they don't know this, but that happens to me all the time. Like, since I've been on the mainland, everyone thinks I'm Filipino. I've been stopped in elevators, crosswalks. People just want me to be Filipino and are very disappointed when I'm not. And sometimes, maybe I've just let them think that I am because they want it so much. So that felt very real to me doing that episode. And, to be able to do it with Nico Santos, who is a great friend of mine, a terrific actor, made it very easy. I also think that we both were, wanted to do it justice, make sure it's right. And I think we are like honoring Filipino nurses because we're the whole episode is about how very skilled they are and how much that we need them in the hospital. So came from a good place.
I love that it's a real life occurrence to review that, like, they're just like, "Kamusta ka?" Like, how's it going? Vicky, I was wondering, when you were writing that scene, were there things that, you needed to be culturally sensitive about?
Yes, but also what was great about writing that episode and where it was pitched from, which we have a Filipino writer also, Emin, who had pitched that joke, and when he pitched it, it was this really nice moment in the room where it was a joke that was pitched that felt so resonant to me as being Asian American, where it is both this like joke that's fun for the character, but almost also a specific joke for Asian Americans who we both are like, hey, don't mix us up, but then we're like, yeah, sometimes we make, and sometimes if I go in a Korean restaurant and they think I'm Korean, I'm not gonna say anything. Because I know I will get better service if they think I'm Korean. So I'm, So it was, but that is like the sense of like, that's the cultural sensitivity. We weren't thinking, we're like, oh, this is from a lived experience. And that's sort of like the best kind of jokes that we can create in these worlds. And having a character like Val, where it wasn't a joke that was like from an outside perspective, it was truly a joke that came from several of our lived experiences. So that's why it felt so nice, because even like, our people were asking like, is this okay? Can we do this joke? And we were like, yes, we should do this joke, because these are the kind of jokes that people will watch it and your story, our story, like people will watch it and be like, yes, exactly, that's happened to me before, where it feels like that's what's, it's generating those kind of conversations, hopefully, and it's not coming from a place that's like, that we're outside saying like, oh, all Asian people look the same. It's coming from a very like specific sort of mindset and experience that we've all had in some way or another.
Yeah, it's definitely like an in-group joke. And I think that that's what's so clever about the show and why I love it, is because it mixes these like humorous moments with like genuine like moments of human vulnerability, but also, it's within this weird context of like the modern healthcare system. So I would love to understand, and maybe I'll start with Heather this time, the creative decisions behind maintaining this balance between the seriousness of the issues portrayed, but also the fact that this is a comedy.
In general, I like working on comedies that have some balance between stuff that's really funny and stuff that's either like serious or sometimes sad, because you can't kind of just have like relentless jokes without some balance. And so, approaching scenes that are more serious, I think that you have license to get into the real emotional feelings of them when you've kind of earned it by making people laugh before. And so it's like, there was this expression, like, you gotta make them laugh to make them cry, and kind of, balancing the tone, and it does come through from the writing first, but just making sure that you're not, going to a place that's like too cloying after school special, and that you're also willing to go into, more serious scenes or more serious kind of topics without like overplaying your hand.
Yeah, and I think the show, touches on things like burnout, right, that you see on the back end, that people as patients don't necessarily always see. I'm wondering, Vicky, how do you ground these storylines in the realities of modern healthcare?
We just always try to come from a really character-based perspective, where there are, and we talk to as many medical consultants that will talk to us, and I have friends who are in the healthcare business, and I'll text them or call them constantly, and we always throw out these scenarios. And actually, the more we talk to healthcare workers, the more there is such, they all have sense of humor, it's because they have to. It's like, it is that world where you, especially in the ER, the emergency department, you see a lot of, really sad, dark things. And to them, it's like, we do have to laugh or we will cry, every day. So it is like, it's coming from that place of, highlighting them in a way that makes them like, hey, they're human. You know, they're doing these like really tough jobs. And so if we can not make light of it, but highlight them in a way that doesn't make them like when you see a person in a working, like that all you think is like negativity, because there is those like small moments where it's not that they're like numb to the tragedies that they're seeing, but there's just something that we're like, this is how we're coping. And you've seen it where it, you know, the pit is doing it in like that dramatic way, and we're trying to do it sort of in the more comedic way of where you're having those like moments where your coworkers are doing weird things because you're like overworked and burnt out and you're just starting not to make any sense. So we're just trying to highlight them in that way. And again, it's all coming from a place of like, the more we talk to healthcare workers and listen to podcasts and stuff, we're hearing their sense of humor through it. And so we're sort of allowing ourselves to continue that and tell their story in that way.
And then Kaliko, I'm wondering, you know, how do you get in the mindset of Val, given everything that Vicky just talked about, right? Like, I know you know the jokes, right? They're scripted, so you're like, I'm gonna crack a joke, but you're like, also like, I'm supposed to be a serious nurse who's, you know, saving lives sometimes.
I think so much of the humor comes out of just playing things honestly. So the writing's so great, and if you just get to the truth of it and play the situation as honestly as possible as your character, the humor will start to come out. And I'm lucky, Val is the one sort of keeping things under control, and there's shenanigans happening all around her. But she's been doing this a long time, so she's typically the one that either ignores it all or, you know, sort of makes them settle down and get back to work. She's very focused on her job and doing it well. So it makes it easy for me to just be sort of the straight man a lot in the scenes and let the others just fly, because it's really fun.
Yeah, I mean, she definitely sounds like a Filipino nurse, so I can tell why she's being mistaken as one. Yeah, so I think on the lighter end of things, you know, every workplace, and especially in these workplace comedies, there's gossip, right? So in this episode called Gimme the Scuttlebutt, the episode cleverly explores the dynamics of workplace intimacy and gossip with Joyce's attempts to regulate office relationships, leading to unintended comedic outcomes. I love that you work on this show, but you're still laughing at the jokes.
Funny.
Vicky, I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit more about, you know, balancing the approach to humor, but also, you know, this commentary on professional boundaries in this scene. And, you know, given that there are medical dramas that do go into the hanky-panky.
Well, again, this was like, we were like, can this happen? And we're like, Grey's Anatomy does it constantly. We have to be able to do at least one episode where, so, no, again, it's all stemmed from, again, confirming with real medical people that are like, yeah, that kind of stuff happens all the time. And we wanted to do our version. But again, like that story sort of stemmed from Joyce in that scene, Wendy, it's like she's the boss. We wanted to tell a story that she's like kind of kicking off. And in her character, it's the idea of that like, she's being left out of the gossip. So again, it's kind of stemming from, wasn't like this big issue, but it was like, if we have our character, her personality is someone who wants to be in charge, but as soon as she realizes she's out of the loop of something, is immediately offended by that, you know, wants to be professional, but also wishes that, and we're telling that dual story of that, you know, the talking head was explaining like, her history is that she used to be an oncologist and she's now moved up in the ranks as now as an administrator. And so we're just coming from that place of when you become the boss and you get left out of gossip, which inevitably happens, right? That's a relatable concept that everyone in a workplace can relate to. So yeah, we just wanted to come from, if this is Joyce's story, what's the best way to start it while kicking off other people, where when you're at work and these are the people you're hanging out with constantly over and over, particularly in a hospital setting where there's a lot of adrenaline, a lot of intensity, like that, those feelings will inevitably come up and hookups will inevitably happen.
Yeah, I think definitely in like the drama world of medical TV shows, that's what they kind of claim is like, you're so intense with each other that of course this is gonna happen, right? Yeah, so I think in addition to romance, every hospital, whether real or fictional, has its fair share of drama and chaos. And I think that it's funny because the show is very unpredictable, right? Like I feel like I read the title of the episode and I read the synopsis and I'm like, I don't don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what I'm in for at all. And then I have another clip for us all to watch. In Buffalo Bruce and Maddie the Kid, you skillfully balance the chaos of a runaway emotional support cat with heartfelt moments of Serena's birthday celebration. So Heather, you directed that episode, and that scene is brilliant. I guess I need to better understand, how did you maintain the comedic timing throughout the episode, but also, what did it take to get a scene like that done?
Yes, well, we had a stunt cat and trainers. There was also a backup stunt cat. And part of planning a scene like that, which is like the most action-oriented sequence I've probably done for St. Denis or for a show like this. We storyboarded first, so we kind of had an idea of where the path that the cat would go, who we'd see kind of panicking, and just trying to make it look chaotic as possible while we were also like controlling for things like, okay, we can't make sound. When the cat is running through, we have to be silent because it spooks the cat. So some of those scenes were shot with people like not making any sound and all the sounds added after. Not the dialogue, but so there was a lot of planning that goes into, just something that has a lot of choreography like this. And it's honestly, it's really fun. Like usually each episode, or if you have an episode to do, there'll be like one thing that's a bit trickier than other, it's like, and that's the thing you usually spend most of your prep trying to figure out. And for us on this one, it was the cat. And we were all really happy. We were like, oh, the cat did great. Very professional.
And then I love like Maddie the Kid. Like he's my favorite character.
Wait, what?
She's right here.
I'm sorry, Val. He just gets so much more screen time. But I think the funniest thing about him is that he is a newer nurse, right? He is newer to the scene. And he, I guess, doesn't necessarily understand the realities of being burnt out and tired as much as the other nurses do. I'm wondering, when, Vicky, you're writing these characters, how do you make sure that they don't become so cynical that people are like, oh, I don't like them? Like, how do you keep them lovable like Val's character?
I don't think I'm lovable, but
You're lovable. But also, I love that it's like I'm writing the whole show, just so everybody is clear. We have a room for very talented writers, and that is a part of it where we have a lot of different perspectives. And so even the most curmudgeon-y characters that we have, or people who get into dark places, the show at the end of the day, we want it to be aspirational in some way. It's a comedy, so we don't want to make light of anything, and we're not stepping outside the boundaries, but we always want to, as we keep going back to this, we're grounded in a place of even the person who gets the most darkest. What's great about a workplace comedy is that the characters around any character who's like very down can be lifted up by, that's the challenge, and that's conflicts in shows where one character is really heading down like a negative path, but we don't end up at rock bottom because they're surrounded by their work family. And so that's a big part of it, where any story that we have where our character is like negative, we always try to either say like, well, they work with their best friends, so probably their best friend's gonna have something to say, or they're gonna step in and help them out of it. Or we go, what is that like final moment that can lift that character up or get them out of their funk in some way? So we're always trying to like find, again, it's like the reality of something and then cutting it off with, I would say like, it's not necessarily undercutting the seriousness of it, but getting back to a point where we don't want to end in like a big sigh, but we want to end in like, that was a really relatable story, but I'm glad that it ended at the end of the day with something that feels a little more aspirational.
Yeah, I think that's such a hard balance to strike. Yeah.
It is a hard balance.
Heather, you came up through the NBCU launched TV Directors Program. It's a major launching pad for many emerging talent. So I'm wondering, how did that experience shape your voice as a director and then influence the kinds of stories or character moments that you're drawn to on set?
I came up through Superstore, actually. So the first show that I directed, and I shadowed a few episodes before, was with Vicky and Kaliko, I mean, I got to know them pretty early, which is great. And so one really nice part about being part of that program is shadowing different directors and getting to know the people involved in the show before you direct yourself. And so for me, like, I think I met Vicky, like, shadowing someone else's episode and, like, sitting by her at the monitor and just, you know, becoming friends. And that was, it kind of made it all feel a little easier when it was my time to direct, so it wasn't coming in totally cold. You know, also you could watch the other directors and kind of like cherry pick the things that you liked about their approach. Like, oh, this director does this, that's smart. Or like, oh, maybe I would, you know, try something different myself. So it was, I mean, I feel really fortunate to have come up through that program. I don't know how I would have gotten to this place without that support, without the program. I mean, I'm sure many people, and there are so many paths to get to this kind of work, but like for me, I'm really grateful to that program, and frankly to like Justin Spitzer, who hired me again, and that was what really opened up the doors for just like a career directing now, and being able to come back.
Yeah, I love that. I think that reminds me of what Kaliko was saying about like, oh, it's the same crew, just a different setting.
Honestly, it's the best crew. It's the best team. Like, I feel like her. Like, I feel like so grateful to be back every time. It's like coming home. Like, yeah, it's good.
Vicky, I remember you were telling us a little bit about how there's medical consultants on set. I guess I would love to know from each of you how having medical consultants, even though you guys are not focused on the medicine, you know, is helpful in each of your parts. Kaliko, would you like to start?
I depend on these people. We get the script, then we get our dialogue, and there might be a mention of what the procedure is, but a lot of times it's not the focus, it's about the characters, and so we don't actually know what we'll be doing, you know, to make it look real. And so literally I'm looking at the consultants like, what? And you know, they'll be like, oh, just take the blood, but you want it to look real, and they're just handing you things and they show you how to do it. And in those minutes before you shoot, you're trying to figure it out and make it look, even when the blood is fake, you're like, ha, ha, ha. But they're there for support and to help you do your job so that you're not really thinking about it, you know, like a nurse would, just does this every day. So there's such a big help. I don't know what, as an actor, we would do without having them just on the ready. We just look at them and be like, you know, and they'll come in and help you.
Yeah, I call on them all the time. I'm like, can we get, like, you know, because a lot of times there's like busy work for actors to be doing between like the dialogue, and you want stuff that feels like based in the reality, so that's one. Or there are things that are scripted that are so specific, like Ron's suturing a patient's leg, and it's like, okay, how much can we really see of that? How do we make this look real? You know, suturing is not like a needle and thread. You have to like use these tools. It's very complicated. So, you know, they're working with the actors before to show how to do stuff. There was another one with like a limb that we had to do a surgery for. You know, like those things, like, yes, while it's not focused on it, you do want it to feel real because that'll make everything else play. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want it to be so fake looking that then it becomes distracting, right? We're not like a very medically heavy show, but of course there is medical stuff. So we want it to be good enough that no one's even like, that the medical stuff is like part of the show, that it's not this like crazy thing that you're just like, he's definitely not suturing that guy's arm, you know. So we want it to be, and that's what's really great about our medical consultants who have worked on a bunch of other medical shows. They're just like, you know, there's a handful of them that just are like Hollywood medical consultants. That it's a great gig because you're literally just coming in and telling people like what they're supposed to be doing and how to do it. And we also rely on them script-wise, especially comedy. We'll just write something, and then Dr. Ron comes in and says medical, and we'll, like we know it should be, you know, we'll just like send it to our consultants to be. Every now and then, someone will be like, oh, like I'll look up a medical word that I've heard 1,000 times, like laceration. That sounds like a medical word. I'll put that in the script, and then but we'll mostly just write medical and like give it to our consultants. And let them know the premise of being like, we need either a procedure or a situation where it's like kind of dangerous, but not so dangerous. So we're always trying to toe that line. So we rely on our consultants to give us these examples and give us these real life things that we can then use to help us tell the story a little bit better.
Yeah, and I think it's so important that it mimics reality so that you really believe the show, right? I think that's so important. Turning to reality, I guess I'm wondering from each of you, what impact do you hope this show has had on public conversations around healthcare in our country? And have you had any, surprising reactions from people who actually work in these spaces?
I think that my greatest hope is that people who are in the medical field, like I always love to hear about people who are in the medical field working, watching the show, and enjoying it. Like that's one of my favorite things, and just in terms of like how its effect back on others, and so I think that if we can. Again, this idea of like relatability or something like if you can see yourself on the screen, whether it's as a Filipino healthcare worker or as just someone working in healthcare in general, like I think it's fun. There's something really like validating to be like, oh my God, I get that. That's me. Or like, and so I think any time that happens and feels like it comes from a real place, it's exciting.
Yeah, I think some of my favorite comments, or if I'm briefly looking online, is, we're not trying to be medically accurate, but we always want to be grounded. But every now and then you get a comment that someone's like, did they film this at my hospital? And you're like, I mean, that's great. That's like a great compliment. If you think that what you're watching on TV feels like it's your actual experience, and that's like a really great compliment to us, because that means like we're just doing something that you're watching and it doesn't feel like so crazy, that it is like relatable in some way. So that's, to me, having not done any medical shows ever, like that was one of the bigger surprises for me, that we were having these moments that people in healthcare were actually watching and being like, oh wow, that like, yeah, that's happened before, or totally get it, or I know a person that's exactly like this, or my boss is just like this. And anytime any of those comments we hear, that's just like the best thing for us.
Yeah, we're doing a comedy and we're playing characters, and obviously, we want to make people laugh. But yeah, when people actually say like, I work with the Val, I'm happy. I'm also like, I'm sorry. It tells me that she serves a purpose. And I think our show really tries to highlight just how much we need healthcare workers, how much they do for us, how much we depend on them in those times of need. Really, heroes in our lifetime. So if they can watch it, but also if they can watch it and get a laugh after a long shift, then I feel like we've done our job.
Yeah, and I think I'm getting to the end of our questions here, but I want to congratulate you all for being renewed for a second season. I guess as you look ahead towards the second season, what kinds of directions or themes are you excited to explore that's going to continue deepening conversations around, the stress or workload and burden that healthcare workers face in these environments?
I guess that's for me.
Yeah.
These people aren't involved yet. I think continuing the themes of, you brought up burnout. I think we're going to continue to play with that. Season 1, I think we touched on it a little bit. I think season 2, we can dive even deeper. I would say like we're just starting second season production now and getting into stories and pitching ideas. And there's no lack of stories so far. It's really nice to be in this world and constantly have so many issues that we can bring up and bring into the world. And going back to our characters, as we continue to flesh them out, seeing that like Matt is someone who, because he's the new nurse, is the most susceptible to being the nurse that completely burns themselves out. So we're now like being able to connect these dots into the second season, which is really nice after we've established like who these characters are. Or with Val, we've seen that she's like the hard ass and like the no nonsense, but do we play a world where there's an episode where she is off her game one day, and what does that look like? So once we've established these characters, it's really nice to then see in season 2, we just get to like either continue their journey, which makes sense, or completely flip the script of a character that we want to see a little bit off from the norm that we normally see them with. So a lot of things like that, a lot of character bases, and then continuing, all the healthcare issues that we all know. It's like dealing with insurance, dealing with, administration, dealing with just the way things are now in our country. I don't know if you guys noticed that it's not great. So it's just like how do we encompass all of that in our world, but coming from a place that's very character based.
I love that. I don't think we've been introduced to the billing department yet at St. Denis Medical. So I can't wait to see what humor you can come from that one. I think lots of people hate calling billing. So we have some time for some questions, if there's questions in the audience. We also have trivia questions, and I will be giving you some tote bags if you want to do trivia as well. But if there's a question, we're happy to take it. Yeah?
I don't have a question per se, but I do have a comment, and that is that I want to just commend and praise. I just wanted to commend and praise the 3 talented artists up there. Oh, by the way, Gianna, you're doing a great job being a moderator.
These are the stars. These are the stars.
I don't want to take much time, but I just love your performance, Kaliko, your character. I love you from Superstore Latino, and you're doing a great job. And Vicky, your writing is so great. I mean, it's just so relatable, Latino, and so you're definitely skillful. And Heather, your direction, I can see the creativity, and especially that cat episode. I got give you a lot of credit to. I don't know how you did it, but then it just puts together, and it really shows. As you can tell, I'm a big fan of St. Denis, but I just want to again commend you and praise you, and I'm so happy that you guys will been renewed for a 2nd season. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
We
you.
appreciate it.
Yeah, they don't all have to be questions. They can just be compliments. Like, if anyone wants to say anything else.
Hi. Thank you for being here. My question is, what is your one advice to someone who want to get into comedy writing for multicam? Well, for me. Yeah.
I mean, I don't, it sounds like it's just keep writing, honestly. Like, you just have to kind of do it. But on top of that, you really have to get your writing out there in any way that you can, whether it's through a program or whether it's having friends that read your writing, because you can, keep crafting, and it can become a very like sort of isolated craft because you're just writing, it's just for yourself, and that feels satisfying. But you're never going to improve, and you're never going to know like what direction you should be leaning in more unless you like just really start to push yourself very publicly. Not to say it's easy, you'll get a lot of like feelings of rejection, or you might be an amazing writer and they'll be like, where have you been all our lives, like get in here. But it's a tough road no matter what, and so all I can say is to keep writing, but also to just wherever you can put eyes on your writing, like submit those things, submit those festivals, go into any programs. Like, it really is just get your name out there, get your writing out there so people can start to like know who you are, start to hear your voice, and that's how you can improve your own voice as well.
First of all, this is great. Thank you very much. Really appreciate the panel talk here. One of the medical shows here, The Pit, is significantly huge right now. How often are you guys looking at other medical shows and then thinking about some of the storylines that they talk about and think, what if we put some comedic angle behind that? Have you guys talked about that? Is that part of like the writing discussion, or is that even a conversation that you guys typically have? And also, good to see you, Vicky.
First of all, that's my cousin, he's a plant. But it is a good question. I'll just, it's open to you guys too. Yeah. But yes, of course The Pit has come up. It's just this like huge phenomenon of a show. But I would say that it's not one-to-one where we're looking at The Pit and we're like, what a great story, we should do the funny version of that story. Like that's not necessarily anything that we want to do. We're like, oh, that's interesting, but the reason there's so many medical shows is there is just so many overlapping and very relatable issues within the medical world. And so that just means like if they're doing something that's similar to us, we take that as like, okay, we're on the right track and we're in the zeitgeist of other medical shows because these are topics other people are talking about and thinking about. So but again, we're not like, what's the funny way to tell that story? We're always just trying to we're certainly doing like, what's an interesting story to tell, and with not necessarily what's the funny version of this story, but what's an interesting story to tell. By nature of our characters being a little sillier, it's gonna just kind of play out in a more comedic way. So we're not playing like what is like the opposite of a serious thing. You know, it's more just like, here's the topic, let's just like move forward with this storyline and finding those moments of humor that play between our characters.
There's also a show that was kind of referenced to me when I started directing called Lenox Hill, which is like a documentary, and it's very serious, like following actual doctors around this hospital in New York. And so but it is a documentary, and the way that they shoot is very like in with the doctors. And it was kind of given to like incoming directors as a visual reference, and we kind of employ that style so much that there's like a shot that we call the Lenny, which is like kind of just like this, again, very like kind of frenetic doc style shot that follows all of the action in one take, kind of. And so that's like an example of like, okay, that's a very serious show that follows real medical issues, real people, and it's how we employ it. And again, not trying to, like, the shot's not funny, but it's, but with the characters living in that world, they're like experiencing it through the lens of the show. It ends up actually lending to the comedy really well, because you can do a lot of funny things with those kinds of like reveals or just like moments that you pick to highlight certain action.
I'll definitely have to watch for the Lenny. I'm gonna rewatch it. So we have some time for some trivia. If you are a big fan like myself or Howard, though, I think the first two questions are a little bit easy, so don't go for that. We have some fun, harder questions at the end. So our first question is, in what state is the understaffed hospital St. Denis Medical set in? Howard, we know you know the answer. We know you know the answer. In the blue. Yes. If you come see me, oh, perfect, thank you.
You guys are prizes. Yeah.
What network airs St. Denis Medical? I think I saw your hand go up first. NBC. Yes. Okay, the questions are getting harder. Howard, I think you can go ahead and shoot your shot. So, what is Dr. Ron's go-to midday snack? Mochi?
Do I know? Yes? Do you want me to answer? This is a trick question. Do you want me to answer? Okay. It's nutrageous.
Yes. Which of the characters has a background as a travel nurse?
Starts with an S.
She was in the second clip we showed today. Or the third clip.
Rhymes with
Here.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. How many children does Nurse Alex have? 2. Yes.
Howard.
What is the name of the cat from that Buffalo Bruce and Maddie the Kid episode?
I mean, I do.
I know they just said it.
No.
Oh.
It rhymes with Casper.
Oh, here in the front. Yes.
I think Linus was actually the name of one of the stunt cats. Am I wrong? Is that right?
was.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wasn't it Linus?
Yeah,
I don't know
think
how
it was.
somebody knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the real name.
What religious heavy object did Val drag across the hospital for a patient? Oh, I see a hand raised there in the stage. Yes.
An enormous cross, bigger than you're thinking right now. It wasn't heavy because it was made out of foam, but it was so big that it was so awkward to hold. It was almost better to move with it than hold it, because then you just started to go down with it.
What unexpected move does the hospital executive director Joyce proudly perform during a staff meeting? In the green? Yes. We do have St. Denis Medical fans in here.
You watch the show.
I think that was improv too by Wendy in heels, a little cartwheel.
Who accidentally used an EpiPen on themselves? He's my favorite character. Yes. And then lastly, who guest starred as Filipino nurse Renee? Yes.
The Nico Santos.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us this afternoon. Some reminders is that St. Denis Medical will return to NBC for season 2. And right now, all 18 episodes of St. Denis Medical are streaming on Peacock. So please give a round of applause to our panelists today.